So getting started, again, thank you all for taking time out to take a look at and participate in this application for the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge. Today, we're going to be going over the general overview of the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge. We're going to talk about the individual sections within the application and the things that you're going to need to do to participate in this so that you can put together a winning application for the challenge. So presenters today are myself, myself, Scott Christensen. I'm a program director along with Paul Rizzo. We're both law enforcement liaisons with the Illinois Chiefs of Police and work with IDOT regarding traffic grants. And so we'll be kind of guiding you through today to give you all the information that you need regarding your applications. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge, basically, what is the challenge? Challenge has been around for like 33 years now. It was started back in the early 90s. Paul Rizzo was one of the original one of the directors along with Steve Cass Stevens. And this is a recognition program that is used through the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police. We're grant funded, and the program recognizes excellence in law enforcement traffic safety programs. So the program itself basically is designed to really make a difference, and with you being able to focus traffic safety as a priority for your organization. We want you to look at it like it says here, to reduce crashes resulting in injuries and deaths. Part of this is, as you know, is that when you make traffic stops, that you're going to be able to detect and deter other forms of crime within your jurisdiction. You're going to be able to engage with underserved populations. Part of this is to do your outreach and to look at where you're having and data driving your enforcement so that you can effectively address those traffic safety issues you're experiencing in your communities. This results in basically creating safer communities for yourself, improving the quality of life for the people that live, work, and drive through your jurisdictions. And ultimately, this, by participating in this and helping you focus on your grant and the type of traffic safety you're doing within your agency, it's going to help support and contribute to the Illinois Strategic Highway Safety Plan. So again, the oversight and funding for this program, we're funded by IDOT through a NHTSA grant. And that's through the Illinois Department of Transportation. And then that is given through the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police. And in addition to that funding, we also receive and provided by corporate partners different types of funding to support this program in the form of equipment, education, and cash to help support this. And these are, as you see right now, some of the corporate sponsors we have that are important for us. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Paul, and he's going to go over some of the other priority areas within the program for you.
Good morning, everybody. The priority areas that we're focusing on, and this by no means means that we're ignoring anything else, but the four major areas, we call them the fatal four. They're the situations that contribute to serious injuries and fatalities in traffic crashes. They are occupant protection, speed awareness, distracted driving, and impaired driving. These are the things that we hope that you're concentrating on and focusing your efforts on. And we'll go over how to do that in the next few slides. So the traffic challenge itself, what does it do? So it recognizes excellence. It recognizes when you have a program that goes over and above just stopping people, giving them tickets, and sending them on their way. This program rewards creativity, it depends on how you're presenting your message, how you're training your officers, how you're doing your enforcement. Is it data driven, or is it just, well, let's see, we'll just go out and do something today? So we're looking for agencies and for programs that innovate the approach to traffic safety. It encourages agencies to develop a comprehensive traffic safety program. So by entering the challenge and by being evaluated by a team of traffic safety experts, we're trying to find areas where you may be over focusing on one particular area and maybe not focusing so much on an area that could really use some attention. We provide in this process a means to measure your effectiveness. There is a complete section that we'll talk about later on where we'll ask you, what did your situation look like before you entered? And then what did you do during the calendar year? And then at the end of the calendar year, when you submit your application, we'll see how effective you were. And as Scott said, we emphasize that traffic enforcement is a leading indicator of criminal activity. We like to say, and we have for, I can't even remember how many years, traffic enforcement is law enforcement. Everybody wants to go out and catch bad guys. Everybody wants to stop the burglary in progress or the armed robbery in progress. When the fact of the matter is, bad guys drive cars. And if they're willing to violate the law in other ways, they're probably not too concerned with the traffic code. So you find people who are violating the traffic code, you stop them, you have a conversation with them, see what they're up to, and later on we'll explain how we reward that activity as well. So how do we figure out where you're going to be placed at? We have municipal categories, which is where the vast majority of you will land. And then we have sheriff's categories. So you're not going to be competing if you're a small agency with 10 officers or with
I think we lost him. So as Paul was saying, basically that you're going to have categories. If you're 1 to 10 officers, that you're going to end up with competing against like size and like type agencies. You're not going to, if you have a 10-person agency, you're not going to be competing against an agency that has 250 officers. Likewise, you're not going to compete against sheriff's agencies. With those agencies will compete against the type of agencies so that you're comparable in regards to the type of efforts that you're doing. We do have other category groupings, state police districts, college universities. As you can see, other agencies, park districts, SOS police, forest preserve. There's a lot of different types of agencies, law enforcement agencies that do traffic safety. If you are an agency like a park district, we clearly understand that the types of things that you would do for traffic safety are going to be different from a municipal or sheriff's office. Those agencies are then compared against other like agencies because, quite frankly, some of those agencies don't do the types of enforcements. They might do more public outreach if you're a park district, but it's still important to recognize those efforts. We do have a championship category. That category, basically what it does, it takes all the first place winners from the previous year and puts them into one category. And then those are basically the best of the best. And then they will compete against each other in the current year for that special recognition. And we also have one for part-time agencies because there are a few part-time agencies out there. So it's not strictly a full-time university or other type of agency that we will recognize. So let's talk about, what does the application look like? So the application, got somebody in here. So the application itself, I get back here. Here we go. Okay. It's all online. Everything that you do, there's a link that you will be able to go to. And it is run by Tennessee Tech University. And the information is right here. You can see that there's a contact information, but you can go to the website for the Traffic Safety Challenge. And if you come to our website at iltrafficchallenge.org, we have a guideline there on how to do an application. In addition to that, though, we have a hot link to the Traffic Safety Challenge website that you would put your application in. What you need to do with that is basically, we'll take you to this site, and the website itself has an application that you can fill out. When you click on that, it will require you to go ahead and fill out, basically, you're going to make yourself an application, sign in, and it's going to have you do a password. And at that point, then you'll be able to go into the application. Prior to that, though, you can look in that resource tab, and the resource tab will give you information for making the application. And we also have a frequently asked tab, as far as how to go about doing things. There's some information there that you may want to look at. You don't have to be signed in to see the resources and frequently asked questions. But for those of you, you can go ahead and hit that application. It'll take you right to where you need to be to sign on and be part of the application. Again, this is what it's going to look like when you go to log in. It's going to ask you your username and your password. And once you do that, it will then allow you to start your application. For those of you that with this application, it's not like Leads, where if you stop it in the middle, that you lose all your work. The application you can work on as you go along over time, and it will allow you to save what you have up until the point that you're ready to submit it. So when you log in, it's going to ask for certain information from you. And so this information, in completing your application, you're going to need, and this is very important, is contact information that we can go ahead and contact you if we need to. It's extremely important because when we do our judging of the applications, sometimes we have questions about your application where we need something clarified, or if we found a part of your application that didn't match up with another part and we had questions, we want to be able to call you. And so when you fill out this part of the application, make sure to have a phone number that we can contact you after hours. Don't have a department cell phone number or something that we can't get a hold of you, because quite frankly, if we can't get a hold of you, then at that point we will make our best guess. And we don't want to make the wrong guess for something, because many of the applications, first, second, third, are separated by points. And so we want to get it right and give you all the points that you have eligible for you to learn or for you to earn. So the other thing we want you to do is have your department head information. We need the title, chief of police. And the reason why we need those numbers for that information is that when we make notification, when you've for how you did first, second, third, or whatever our notifications are, we typically will send it to your department head, sheriff, chief of police. And at that point, then that'll be how we're going to contact you. We may CC you or be able to CC you regarding the notification, but it ultimately is titled and the letter is sent to the head of the organization. So the application, again, is online. And as part of that application, like we showed you, that you're going to have a category that you're going to fit into, one of those. And so we're going to ask you, there'll be a drop down when you go to put in your agency's name. And that drop down will have the different categories. You'll select that, you'll type in the agency type. What we want to know is the number of personnel and what is the total number of uniformed officers that are actually working on the street. So the sworn personnel, when you select that, is what will place you into your category. 1 to 10, 11 to 25, whatever the category is. And then the number of total uniformed officers on the street will be used by us when we're calculating ratios and percentages for your enforcement activity, for your outreach. If you don't have a lot of people working the street or ability to go out and do that, you're going to get a higher consideration when we score these, as opposed to an agency that has a lot of people, and we look at, the volume of effort that you did, and, that many times makes the difference in your applications. So the online application has a number of different categories that you can put in for specialty awards. So that is in addition to being recognized for your category award. Specialty awards, and we have a number of them, you'll check in the application which one you're applying for. If this is your first time, we have a Rookie of the Year, basically, that we'll recognize. So you may not even win your category, but if you're a first-time agency making an application, you can be recognized with a specialty award for being the best of the new agencies. It's understandable that if this is your first shot at this, that you may not do as well as an agency that's been doing this for 15 years, that has built a complete comprehensive program. So you can be recognized for that. But some of the awards that you can see here that we will recognize are, did you do something particularly cool or special for bike safety, commercial vehicle, impaired driving, you have occupant protection, rail safety, speed, and then we also have a community engagement special recognition. That basically is, how are you going out there? And we look at, okay, so how do you get that one? Are you outreaching? Are you talking to your community? Are you finding out, are there specific programs? You're not just deciding what you need to do. Many times we kind of know where our crashes are occurring, but is there something that's going on from a micro mobility aspect, excuse me, within your jurisdiction? What are you doing for outreach into those at-need community areas? And then what you'll end up doing is you will make a separate application you'll develop or do a separate PowerPoint that you'll save that takes from all the different areas within the application. You'll put it into a 2 or 3 page kind of micro presentation for each individual specialty award, and then you'll upload that. And so it's a simple thing to do. You'll see there is that, if you're putting in for it on the page, you'll create this in Word or any of the Microsoft kind of different venues that you can do that in. And then you'll go ahead and choose that file and upload it. And then that's how easy it is to do the application. It then automatically formats it, and then we will then look at each section. So what are the priority areas? You are being judged or being scored on a number of different areas. The first is going to be policy and procedures. Policy and procedure and guidelines that your agency provides is looked at, and we want to see, do you have a policy that says officers need to wear seatbelts? I mean, most everybody does. Do you have a policy, procedure, or guideline that prioritizes the type of enforcement that you're looking for traffic safety? We look at training. What kind of training are your officers receiving that'll be traffic related? Do you recognize those officers who do a good job with traffic safety within your organization? How is your public information, outreach, and education when it comes to this? What are you doing that's special, that's out and unique? We also look at your enforcement. Are you say you're out there doing enforcement, you're trying to, address these issues within your agency, and are you doing enforcement? Because that's a critical component, of this. Then we look at, are you evaluating it? Are you data driving what you're doing? And then what effectiveness of your efforts? How did you present that? Show us what you did. How effective were you? And then we also look at the quality of your submission. We have guidelines in different sections, and we have a training section. And do you have training in there organized in such a way that that it makes sense, and you don't have public information in the training section? So we look at the quality. Does it read well? How is it presented to us?
Sorry you lost me there, guys. I have a couple of dogs at home who don't know how to shut their mouths. So we'll move on to section 1 right now, which is, Scott, there you go, policies and guidelines. So we don't want the entire general order where a paragraph refers to the section that we're looking for. We only want the relevant text. We're looking for enforcement policies and guidelines for safety belt enforcement, safety belt usage by your officers or deputies, child passenger restraints, speed, distracted driving, and impaired driving. Again, what do we have here? We've got the Fatal 4. Don't just retype the wording of your policy. Scan the policy out of your actual general order, make a PDF out of it, and highlight it. Judges need to see the policy, along with information such as the date it was written. Now, your policy may be 37 years old, but if it covers the situations that we're looking for, it covers the facets of your enforcement that we're going to be evaluating, then that's fine. But we do want to see when it was written so that maybe we can make a suggestion later on. Hey, you might want to take a look at your seatbelt policy. It might be a little bit old. We all know that cops don't like to wear seatbelts because when the bad thing happens, I'm not going to be able to get out of my car in time, or if I plunge into the water, I'm going to drown. The problem is it takes mere seconds, if not even less than that, to get your seatbelt off when you arrive at a scene. You're far more likely to be killed or injured on your way to the call than you are when you actually get there. Not to minimize the danger of certain calls that we go on, but the reality is far more coppers die on the way to a call or even driving in their everyday manner. People will run stop signs, drunk people hit us. So even though 12603.1B10 says police officers don't have to wear their safety belts at all times, we're looking for policies that say, yes, you do. And Scott just fell asleep. There we go. Online application. So we're going to ask you certain questions here. Do you have a written policy? Obviously, you're going to say yes, because hopefully you do. Do you have a policy making enforcement of safety belt and child passenger safety restraint laws a priority? So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for we're looking for policies and procedures that make these things a priority. Do you have a written policy making speed enforcement a priority? Impaired driving enforcement or distracted driving enforcement? Check yes or no based on your truthfulness. And if you do have a policy addressing those issues, then you're able to choose a file from your PDFs that you just created, and you can upload that into the computer. So here's an example of what we're talking about as far as a policy that takes every one of those categories into account. You can certainly have policies that address each one individually, but this is an example of someone, excuse me, who wrote a policy that addresses everybody. And this policy calls those 4 violations hazardous, and they're known to result in an increase in the likelihood or severity of crashes, and that makes them a priority. Lists the violations, and it tells people that they're looking for these violations as a priority. These are the things that kill people and injure people, and this is what the traffic safety challenge is emphasizing, and this is what we're looking for in your policies and guidelines. Another example, you can certainly do it this way, and this is for officer, or in this case officer, but it also applies to deputy seatbelt usage. All employees shall wear properly adjusted safety restraints. So this is not just the people who are driving the car. If you've got ride-alongs, or if you've got, if you're an FTO and you're training someone, we expect everybody to be buckled up. And this is not only in owned squad cars. This is anything that's owned, leased, or rented by the department. So just because you happen to be in a detective car and it doesn't have a cage and it's got soft lights and it doesn't look like the police car, we still expect you to be buckled up on or off duty. Now, you may think that this sounds a little bit draconian. That what do you mean off duty? How can you tell me to do that? Well, it's it's more of a suggestion to keep you safe and to keep you able to come back to work every day and not get hurt or killed or hurt while you're off duty. Or if you happen to, and this doesn't usually apply to people up in this area, but if you're using any privately owned vehicle while on duty. So I know that there are some places in the world that they just don't have enough company cars. And officers sometimes have to take their own car out, maybe to do a special enforcement detail. We expect everybody to be using their seatbelts every time they go out in any conveyance at all. And then, obviously, the person driving has to make sure that all their passengers are restrained in the proper manner also. Speed enforcement, this is just another example of a policy where it talks about high priority to enforce speed limits. We're looking for things that emphasize the importance of these 4 violations, whether you say that you're going to vigorously enforce them or that they are a high priority, whatever verbiage you use works out for us. It's just the matter of you have to make sure that you emphasize that these violations are a high priority and they will be vigorously enforced.
All right. I'm going to cover training now for your department and your officers/deputies. This is really an integral part of the traffic safety application. Making sure that your officers are trained in basically the fatal 4 or all 4 of the target areas annually is important. The training that's available out there, and we recognize that that not everybody has the ability to send somebody to an MTU class or something to Northwestern, like that. But a lot of that has to do with budget. But that being said, there are opportunities for training that you can use that are free and are online for you to be able to at least have your officers trained in these anchor areas. Don't forget about your civilian personnel. Part of your traffic safety, if your agency does organize the crossing guard in your area, or if your CSOs are trained, make sure you include that. Don't forget about that. A lot of applications that we see, we know that they're running crossing guards, and that's traffic safety when you train them every year. Don't forget about other areas of training that you guys have. Trucks, crash investigation, bike safety, rail safety, team. There's a lot of other training that's available out there that's not simply, a radar training or a LiDAR training. And use your imagination. Anything training that can be used for traffic safety. You got your drones. You have a crash that you need to map, and you're using drones now. Well, then you got trained in a drone. Show us the nexus, though. Don't just say drone training. We don't want ASP training or canine training. What we're looking for is stuff that's directly related to what you're doing. But don't forget, if somebody goes to read interview course, if you're going to be interviewing somebody in a fatal crash, well, that would count. Same with photography. Okay. Do you do training? IDOT has a bureau that comes out and they'll put on training for you to help you understand why it's important for the 1050. Though that's constantly being, updated. And then also with your own crashes. Are you training your officers to say, hey, last year we had this many crashes, pursuit training, anything that has to do with that? Safety Town for training or educating your public. So in the application, you're going to see this in the online application for training of officers. And again, what you're going to do is you're going to create within your application separate sections. If you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, you're going to have a PowerPoint that you're going to document all your effort in each area. So you're going to have a training, a policy one, and then you're going to upload them separately. It's not going to be one giant, PowerPoint. So in your application, you're going to see this. We're going to want to know the number of officers who receive training in occupant protection, impaired driving, speed, and distracted. Those are the anchor areas. And so we want to know how many of them received training, and then at what amount. Eventually down, we're going to want you to do a matrix to say, okay, did you get a roll call training for 30 seconds on some type of aspect of seatbelt use, and that's all you got for the whole year, or was it something more comprehensive? And then what are the number of officers who received training in all those other areas that we were going ahead and that I showed you in the previous slide? If you look at the bottom of each application section, you're going to see like a notes area that you can write stuff. And it says it's optional, list the programs you'd like to call special attention to. When you do your application, if you had a particularly interesting type of training that you had for your officers, that what you can do is use that area for bullet points to bring to our attention that
carriers offering Medicare plans.
oh, if you could mute yourself, I would ask somebody who's got their phone going, if you could mute, you got background noise going. But if that's the case, if you want to bring to our attention as we look at this section, any particular things that you're doing that you want us to pay attention to that are in your upload. So that way we for sure don't miss it. And if it's a particular thing that you're particularly, proud of or think that we need to make sure we don't miss. So what's officer training? We want you to tell the whole story of your annual training. Okay. So what we're looking for is what kind of formal schools did you go to? Did you go to Lifesavers? Did you go to a conference? Did you go, last year there was a CPS conference that was put on by IDOT down in Bloomington. Did you have any officers attend that? What kind of roll call training did you do? What are the new traffic laws for the year? That always comes out in the first part of January. SOS puts it out. And did you provide that to your officers? Any video-based training? Any online training? Did you put out training bulletins? Tests on policies. Many agencies will have, when you get in your car, you fire up your computer and maybe there's a question or two that you have to answer before you can get going for the day. That's on general orders. In service training, computer, any kind of recertification. So, let's say that, you were a SFST certified. Well, every so often you want to be recertified for that. Or, let's say you're a CPS tech. Okay, every few years you have to be recertified. So what kind of recertifications did you use? Or did you have to, in the past year, talk with your training coordinator for your agency and find out what kind of training was done? Some of your officers may have attended training that you're not aware of. So go ahead and talk to your training person and say, hey, give me a list of all the training that we provided last year, and then make sure that you include that. And then the other thing that we look at is any past training that's relevant. So if you have CPS training that you need every couple of years, but you're still involved in it, and you didn't get training last year, but it's a couple of years, include that in that type of past training section. If you're a crash reconstructionist, and you're using it, and you're going out, a DRE, but it has to be traffic related only. Do not include, like we said, ASP or dog. We've seen everything, all kinds of training. We just want traffic training. And again, here are some examples of things that people have included over the years: canine ASP, defensive tactics, SWAT training. These are the kind of things that people have put in it. Every year we see this. We just want traffic. So the other thing we want you to look at and include in there is break it out in the type of training. You're going to see the way it's organized. But what we want to do is, we want to see in your narrative, tell us what the officer did, what kind of training, when it was, and then maybe show a certificate or two. When you're showing proofs that somebody actually did some kind of training, you may have 15 officers that were trained in that particular thing on impaired driving. Okay. We're recertified in something. I don't need, or we don't need to see 41 different certificates. Give us one or two examples with the dates and show that it was done. Make sure it was done in the past year. You may have an old one in there. Make sure it's from last year for your example. We do read these. It's electronic. We can blow it up. There's a lot of stuff that we know what went on. Make sure the dates are correct, because we're gonna check the dates to make sure it happened, but just use a certificate or two to show us proofs that it happened. As part of your training, the Traffic Safety Challenge website has a training tab that you can go to. There are PowerPoint presentations that you can review. There are documents for different types of training. If you're going to run a roadside safety check, there's all kinds of training on how to do that correctly. So did you train the people that might be doing that? And then there's all kinds of different videos. Here's an example of videos that many of you have seen before that talk about different types of laws and different types of aspects of police training. They have them there. It takes you to a hot link, either on Vimeo or on YouTube, and you can watch those things or have those people do that. Many of them are really short. You can do it at roll call. Take the time to do it. It's free and it's easy. One of the other things for training that we have is free online training. Many of you know is Traffic Safety Institute, which is a NHTSA-based thing. They have a lot of free courses. You can sign up. It's free. The type of training they have, you can sit down. Some of it you can get done in an hour. Some of it is a little more comprehensive and you can do over a day or two. And some of those are remote training where it's actually training that you can get certification for that's remote. And it talks about, in this case, you can see there's different types. They have a lot in their course catalog. If you go there and you sign in, it has what's upcoming in the next couple months. You can plan to have people go there. Again, if you just type in TSI training, you don't have to type in that big, email address or website address. If you just type in that TSI, dash DOT, it'll take you where you need to go and then take a look at it. Sign up, get yourself a password, and then take a look. It's all free. Some of the other areas you can look for training is GHSA has their own website. There was an LEL national site that you could get information from, but now go to GHSA, go to IACP. They have online training either in person or that you can do, remotely, or it's just something you can just review. They have different types of webinars that are available for you. Take the time to go there. It's, again, all free. One of the things that you want to take a look at, those I'll mention from just at this last one, is you can, you all have like a PBT that you ordered and you have that DVD that comes with it. Put that in the computer or go online now. You probably don't have the ability to do it, but go online to their website and they have a training for it, for whatever you're doing, and then watch the company's training video on it online. That counts as training. So what we like to do when it comes to training, what makes it easier for the judges to do what's called a training matrix. What the matrix does is it allows you to break out the type of training and how much and when. This really helps us to see how comprehensive training you had in the past year. So this is an example where it has the date, type of training, who was the provider, was it in-house? This happened to be Niemert. How many officers attended that particular type of training, and then how many total hours. But this helps the judges look at this and see what type of training was done and how many people actually took the training. And again, everybody doesn't have to take all the training. You can have 1, 2, 3 people. You can have everybody on the department and then track all the local hours or the local hours that you spent on that. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul to do section 3.
Yes, I am back. Incentives and recognition. This is so important because whether they admit it or not, most people like to be recognized for doing a good job. So if you're doing it either in-house, somebody making things up on their own, or if you're using outside methods, we encourage that for your officers, but also for your civilians, for your jurisdiction. So let's go over some of these. Do you participate in officer recognition programs for occupant protection, for speed, for impaired driving, for distracted driving, et cetera, et cetera? Do you have a Saved by the Belt program? Do you have a Saved by the Helmet program? These things are either available outside of your department, for example, your AIM, your MAD, your ITEA awards, or do you do them in-house? Do you just make up a certificate? You can go into one of the online programs. You can make up a certificate. You can go to the office supply store, get yourself some fancy paper and a simulated leather frame, and you can give those out. So you're going to get extra points or additional points for that because, as I mentioned, people like to be recognized for doing a good job, but even if they don't appreciate you rewarding them or recognizing them, it's important that you do, because that way you're sending the message that you're doing the job that we expect you to do. You're going above and beyond. You're making a difference. You're helping the overall traffic safety plan. You're helping your residents and the people who drive through your jurisdiction. You help keeping them safe. So it's important that you do that both for your officers and for your people in your jurisdiction, people who drive through your jurisdiction. And we'll go over some of those different types of awards in the next few slides. So what you really want to be careful of, and this is something that we've talked about for years, I think this came from Cass Stevens, but I'm not positive, but we don't call these Toasters for Tickets programs. So we want to make sure that you're not recognizing people simply for the fact that they wrote 1,000 speeding tickets in a year, or they wrote 2,000 child restraint tickets. We want you to make sure that there's a rationale behind why you're giving out these awards. There used to be a PIN program that you could get pins for speed and for occupant protection. You can still get them for DUI, I believe, but the decision was made that it probably doesn't look good to walk up to somebody you're going to give a ticket to and have a pin on it that says, I've given out 1,000 speeding tickets. Probably not the best public information effort that we ever had. So Officer of the Month is fine. Officer of the Year is fine. But it's not just because they foiled a burglary or they did some good investigative work and they tracked down somebody who committed a fatal hit and run. We want your recognition should be for those 4 focus areas that we've talked about already: occupant protection, speed, impaired driving, or distracted driving. If you investigate crashes at all, and I hope to God you do, you should have a Saved by the Belt award. Now, you can do that through the state of Illinois, or you can do that yourself. The state of Illinois program rewards people with a nice kind of a challenge coin type item. It comes in a nice wooden case. There's a certificate that goes along with it. You can send your nominations down to buckleupillinois.org. There's a nomination form on that website. It doesn't have to be that involved, though. If you want to, you can just make up your own certificate. You can have the people come in if they're willing, because some people don't want the notoriety. Have them come into your village board meeting and present these things. If you have a Saved by the Safety Belt program and you have people come in and they can tell their story about how, you know what, I was in a wreck and I should have been killed, but I wasn't because I had my seatbelt on, or my kids were in their restraints and they were properly secured. That does so much for the village board, recognizing, or the county board, whatever it is you're dealing with. It helps them to understand that you're out there not just making people mad that you're writing them tickets, but you're also encouraging them to do the right thing and to protect themselves. Here's a perfect example of a certificate that was made up by Hanover Park. They took a couple of logos, got a piece of paper from the office supply store, and there you go. If the people that you want to reward don't want to come in, you can always mail it to them, drop it off at their house, whatever it is you want to do. However, it's good public relations. Saved by the helmet, saved by the child restraint. These are all possibilities for you. So you ask, Paul, give me some criteria for the Saved by the Belt. Well, it doesn't have to be a horrible personal injury crash in order to be recognized. If they are restrained and you roll up on the scene, or the paramedics you're talking to, and you say, hey, you know what? If this guy or this woman wasn't in their seatbelt, or if that kid wasn't properly secured in a restraint, we'd have had a problem here. That would have been a type A injury, and they'd have been going to the hospital or worse. So the problem that we sometimes have is, and you see it in the parentheses down there, with rare exceptions, the at-fault driver shouldn't be getting a Saved by the Belt award. But there are circumstances where you might want to do that. Say it's a kid, just got their driver's license, it's a snowy night, snowy day, rain, something wrong, and they wreck their car because they just don't have the skill set to handle the situation. You might want to give them a Saved by the Safety Belt award. And that one might go to a high school assembly if you can talk the high school into it. So you really need, if you're investigating crashes, which I already mentioned you should be, you should have some sort of a Saved by the Belt award, especially because it's so easy. It doesn't have to go through buckleupillinois.org. You can do it yourself, and it doesn't take that long. Here's an example, like Scott was talking about earlier with the number of officers and the productivity. If you have 500 total crashes and you've got 45 personal injury crashes and you have 20 Saved by the Belt awards, pretty good. If you have 500 total crashes, 45 PI crashes, and you got 2 Saved by the Safety Belt awards, maybe you need to do a little bit better. So that gives you some sort of an idea of what we're looking for. And again, like I said, they don't have to be done in person. It's good public relations, especially in front of the village board, city board, town council, county board, or the high school, if that's a possibility, or they can be mailed. I mentioned that already. Here's an example of the Saved by the Helmet Award. The state does not have one. So this one was made up by the agency themselves. And again, it's a little bit wordy, but gets the point across. Saved by the Helmet.
Steve, if I can interrupt, the state does have one now for a helmet. Saved by the Helmet could be motorcycle and or bicycle. Now they've just instituted one.
Oh, excellent. Moving along. So if you would like to do this in your agency, you can certainly get one of these plaques, and you've seen them in different agencies. I'm sure as you've made your travels, it's Officer of the Year, Officer of the Quarter, whatever. You can certainly buy one of these plaques. And then every year, if you've got an Officer of the Year award, or if you've got somebody who writes a particular amount of tickets and you want to do it for speed, this one here is in particular for speed, but you've got them, you've got all kinds of different options. Here we have a couple of examples of awards that were given out. You've got your Mad Hero Award. You've got your IDOT pin over there on the left-hand side, I think. Scott's screen is very small on my computer, so it's hard for me to read some of these. But you've got Operation Lifesaver, and you've got Illinois Truck Enforcement Association, which now is Midwest Center for Traffic Safety, Scott.
Yeah, it's the overarching one. I think it's there.
Okay, moving along. Again, you've got your AIM, your MAD Hero Award, you've got your AIM Award, DUI pins. So, and remember, these are the number of DUI arrests that people have made since January 1st of 2001. You're going to be giving this award to some people who weren't even on the job yet when this award was instituted. So, I mean, maybe somebody doesn't make a lot of DUI arrests every year, but over the course of their career, maybe they've gone out there and they've done their job. Give them a pin, make them or recognize them in some way, and maybe, just maybe, it will motivate them to put out a little more effort. This is relatively new, I believe, within the last 2 or 3 years. This is the DRE of the Year award. So there aren't that many of you out there. This is a nomination through AIM, and there is a nomination form, obviously, on their website. And it's over and above what would be done on during duty hours. So if this officer, if this DRE or deputy makes contributions during the program or outside the program, this would be the time where you would nominate them for the award. We don't judge this, so I don't really know who does, other than AIM puts together a panel. But again, it's another.
The Midwest Center also has a DRE of the Year award.
Okay. Just another way to recognize somebody for doing a job, their job over and above what you would normally expect in their everyday duties. Drunk Busters. This program is still in effect, although I haven't heard of anybody who has submitted anybody for it recently, but it's still out there. Drunk Busters reporting form, and you can also nominate your outstanding assistant state's attorney. That is also an option on the AIM website. So if you've got a state's attorney that's really going out there and helping you with your DUIs, helping you with your testimony, not willing to plea bargain things down when they know that there's a reason for these people to be arrested, you got an ASA that deserves to be recognized, put their name in. Especially state's attorneys who don't have a lot of contact with the outside world, perhaps. Maybe they don't get recognized by their office. Maybe they're out there working and helping you guys every day, and they're making the right decisions and they're doing the right things. And it's nice for you guys as cops to nominate them and say, hey, we appreciate the job that you're doing, because we know that it's not an easy job to prosecute DUIs. You guys know it's not an easy job to testify. So don't hesitate to nominate your ASAs.
One other note on your recognition is that you say, okay, wait a minute, we didn't recognize anybody. It has to be for work that was done. So like, it's still early in the year. A lot of agencies will recognize their officers, in this case, the work they did in 2025, in 2026, because you want to, you're now still at this point gathering information on how much work they did. And, let's say you have a March department meeting and you recognize them for the work they did. You can count that in this application, even though they received the recognition in 2026, it's for work that was done in 2025. So if you haven't recognized in your department, top officer for top deputy for, doing speed, distracted, for all these things, you can do it now. Go back, look at what they did, make your certificates now and recognize them. And it could be at a roll call. It could be, whatever. It doesn't have to be a big department meeting. But as long as the work they're being recognized for was done in 25, and even though it's 26, you can use that and include it in your application. So let's move on to public education and information. So this is probably one of the biggest areas. Everybody sometimes thinks that the point value is really heavy on enforcement. And while enforcement is important, this is one of the biggest point areas within our application. Public outreach and education is extremely important, as you all know. Again, this is what you're going to see when you have to upload it. This area is probably the biggest section that you're going to have in your application. With this, we want you to include visual proofs for the kind of things that you've done with your community. Again, in this section where you have the box where you can put stuff, we don't want you to put your narratives in this box section. We want you to put your bullet points. We did a particular cool outreach thing that we did, just so we don't miss it, because it's such a big section. We don't want to get that overlooked. And so this is what you would do, is put it there. So what does that look like? We want to know what you did for your non-enforcement side of your traffic safety program. What things did you do to spread the message of highway safety in your community? Did you work with other communities to help do programs? How was your outreach? Safety Town, rail safety, any kind of senior. You have a senior expo and you show up there and you do something, on how they can make sure they get car seats for when the grandchildren show up. We want all of that information, where they can say, hey, here's where you go to get stuff. We want you to include any news articles, presentations, proclamations, anything that you did to convince the public that traffic safety is a priority and important. What did you do? We talked about police academies. You still do some the mock DUI crashes or prom events, any kind of educational sign, banners. And, just as a side note, Paul and I, we're law enforcement liaisons. IDOT has a bunch of free banners for impaired driving, speed, distracted. All you have to do is contact us and we'll get you those free signs, those free banners. What kind of brochures do you have? We talk about your police website. Do you have a village newsletter? Do you have a section called Traffic Matters where you put about, hey, don't be a driver that drives with snow on your windshield. Don't be a peephole driver. Any kind of articles, anything that you do for outreach. Did you do any televised interviews? Do you have a local TV station or something that you were involved in? If you did, take a screenshot of what you did if it's on TV, and then make sure you put that into your application. The press, don't necessarily print a lot of stuff that you think would be out there, stuff that you've done that, it's really good. Depends on what kind of news day it is. There is a thing that many of you know, there's a thing called The Patch. It's an online newspaper, basically, that's locked into your general location. And what it does is it allows you to write the article, post a picture that supports that, notification, whatever article that you want to write, and then it gets posted for the public to read. So it's not dependent on some editor. Now, you'll post it and someone will look at it to make sure there's nothing goofy with it, but 99.999% you're going to get posted. You will be surprised how many people look at the patch. Go to that location on the patch, patch.com, and you'll be able to set up your own patch thing where you can put in your articles. This is just an example of some of the ones that are available out there. If your village isn't listed on here, go next door. More than likely, you're going to find either your jurisdiction or a close one that you can put articles in. Utilize your social media. Right now, everybody knows that, this is the way people communicate. All the different kinds of stuff. Make sure that if you have somebody within your agency that does this kind of thing, that's assigned to do it, that you provide them some traffic safety information other than the road's blocked because there's a crash. We're looking for, just safety messages that you can use. We put a lot of stuff that's on our website, and we have a Facebook page for the challenge and for the Illinois law enforcement liaisons. Theft is sometimes the best, compliment. You grab something, put your name on it, and put it out there. This is an important area because this is where people are actually engaging the public the most these days. If your department has any kind of flyers, educational material that you put out, You may have something in your lobby that's sitting there. Make sure it's up to date. And the other thing that we want to know is if you went to an event and you handed out this particular brochure on bike safety, we want to know how many deputies handed out how many brochures. You didn't just go, hey, we went to the county fair and we had a booth and we handed out bicycle safety stuff. We want to know how many people you engaged, how many of these particular things that you handed out, and what kind of innovative things that you do. You'll see there where there's like, it looks like a tag that, about for the holidays. That's used by some agencies that you saw the Christmas tree, yards where they go in there. And what they did is they put a traffic safety message, put their department's logo on there, and then they put the price of the Christmas tree on that. And the vendor there said, yeah, go ahead, tie it on. That's something unusual. It's different. But those kind of things. But mainly, whatever you hand out, tell us how many, where, and how much. You can do your own PSAs that go out there. Many agencies do it. Proclamations, you can get those from online, nationally, just copy and paste, put it in there. We have a lot of different campaigns that you can put proclamations out there for. The big ones, there's Rail Safety Week, there's Click It or Ticket that's in May. There's a lot of different things that are out there that you can do proclamations. Look at that, and then look at stuff like giveaways for public information. You can go to the local vendor, the Dairy Queen or Culver's or whoever, and get free giveaways for something. And if you see somebody at a high school, and the kids that are driving out and they're wearing their seatbelts, hand them one of these things for a free ice cream or something. But we want to know, how are you doing those outreach? Don't forget about your local businesses. They have signs, you can put safety messages on, banners, any kind of community resource. You may not have your own web page, but maybe the county does. And, the county can put different sections and things in there regarding traffic safety. You look at Tazewell County, they've got different types of things. They got animal control, for the website, for the village, for the county in this case, but they also have teen driving in there. So you can get stuff included in that. And again, here's an example of one of the banners that IDOT has that we can give you for free. Just let your local LEL know, regional, we'll get them to you. Other examples of community outreach that people have partnered with. And again, NHTSA has a bunch of public information and education stuff for you. The traffic safety marketing is what it's under for NHTSA. And you name the campaign, you name the enforcement effort, or you name the outreach effort for, anything, truck safety. It's not just the Fatal Four. And you can download that public information that you can get. We have St. Patrick's Day coming up. Go onto the website, download a bunch of stuff with the traffic. It has everything from sized for Facebook, for your social media, to actual things you can print out, to hashtag things. Just look at what it is. They've got it there for you. Take advantage of it. You have that coming up. So again, your public information and education, what we're looking for is public participation and engagement, typically known as PPE. Let us know, PPE provides a framework for you to start dialogues that revolve around pertinent traffic safety information and concerns within specific populations within your jurisdiction. And so what you want to be able to do is, if you had a micro-mobility issue that was going on, how did you deal with a certain section of town? They had there's a lot of people that are walking across a major roadway because there's an apartment complex that has a lot of seniors in it, and they have to cross the roadway to get there to do their shopping. How did you address that safety issue that they're dealing with? We encourage you to use data to identify and focus on the type of underserved census tracts that may need a particular type of assistance with public education and outreach. So data drive what you're doing. everything that we want to see, and it's going to get you points in every single section, is how are you using data to drive what you're doing in that section. It facilitates collection of valuable insights and information that you may not have, by talking with these people in the community on different traffic related matters. And there's a lot of smart people out there that can provide, hey, what about this? And you're going, boy, I never thought about that. And that came from a citizen, and they've observed the problem firsthand, and maybe they can give you more specific information. Community outreach participation is really important. So look for those opportunities and document those. And again, it raises awareness in that particular community, encourages participation and support for identifying the problem and then also developing a solution to it. It doesn't always have to be the county sheriff's department that comes up with a solution. You want to use the community. That also helps with support. If they have a bite of the pie with it, then that can do it. And it provides opportunities to influence decision makers on highway safety plans by having this community outreach. Then we want to know, how did you incorporate that information? You received this information from public participation and outreach. Then what did you do about it once you had that information? Did you employ it in your efforts, whether it be for enforcement, community outreach, whatever aspect is? How did you employ it? Well, how did you use it? Paul, section 4 or 5.
Yes, 5. We're still working on Scott's math skills. So enforcement activity, we are looking at, tell us how many contacts you've written over the last 3-year period. What we're looking for here is we're looking for trends. So if you wrote 100 tickets in 2023, 200 in 2024, and 50 in 2025, that's going to require an explanation. Now, there could be a valid explanation. You lost a lot of people, you had construction in the area, and your main roadways were blocked to the point where nobody could do anything wrong other than just make their way along the road to get where they're going. You could have had a budget cut and you weren't able to put people on. So it could be any reason at all that we have this decline, but you need to be able to tell us what happened. If your enforcement contacts are going up, so much the better, perhaps. However, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at your effectiveness, and we're going to see, well, they wrote a lot more tickets this year than they did last year, but their PI crashes went up. So what's the story there? Again, we're going to talk about justifying what you put in your application in a narrative fashion and not just throw a bunch of numbers at us and expect us to figure it out. So there are all these different programs, and we expect you to participate at least in the major national programs, the clicker to ticket, the drive sober or get pulled over, et cetera, et cetera. By participating in these efforts, you're taking advantage of what's most of the time free media, because the government pays for the media coverage on print media, broadcast media, and if you are conducting enforcement during these particular programs, you're taking advantage of the fact that your enforcement is being multiplied by the fact that there's media advising the public that, hey, we're out there doing this, so pay attention. I just mentioned national campaigns. So the state does have other campaigns also, and the Illinois Chiefs have a campaign in July, Speed Awareness Day. So we encourage you, regardless whether you have a grant or not, we encourage you to get involved with the Speed Awareness Day, and we try to get as many departments as possible involved in this, and we expect that it makes an impact on people if they know that we're going to be out there doing enforcement, and this is where your public information and education kicks in. You can also include any special enforcement efforts. So if you have a citizen complaint area where people can call in or write in or stop in and say, hey, there's this intersection and people are blowing that red light all day long. That's the kind of thing where you're going to take advantage of documenting that. Because the more you respond to the community, the more you respond to their complaints, the better we will look at your enforcement efforts, because you're actually dealing with a problem and you're not just sending people out to write speeding tickets where we've always written speeding tickets. There's never been a crash there. There never will be a crash there. This way you're doing something about problems. You're data driving your approach. Scott loves that phrase, data driven. So take your information, take your top 10 crash intersections, your top 5 crash intersections, your area by your high schools where kids speed and don't wear their seatbelts. You're concentrating on school zones where people speed. Take advantage of all of these special efforts and document them. So how did you use your data to drive your enforcement? Your heat map there in the left-hand corner, your top 5 crash intersections there in the lower right-hand corner over a 5-year period. This way, we can look at this when we detect your effectiveness. This will help us to determine, are you doing things that are making a difference, or are you just out there writing tickets because people are violating the traffic laws? Give us pictures. Again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Don't neglect the fact that you want to explain why you have a picture. The right-hand picture with people at a portable scale, that's great. Where did it happen? Who was involved? And please, when you're doing these pictures, make sure they're of your agency. We have had examples in the past where people have used other agencies' pictures and put them in their application, and we're supposed to believe that they did whatever it is that the picture indicates. So it's already February of 2026, and you had, you had a fair going on in the summer, or you had, like in the left-hand picture there, a seatbelt enforcement zone, but nobody was around to take pictures. And you say, oh man, what are we going to do? We will understand if you mock up a picture that you actually did the activity that the picture depicts. So it's February, and last May, you guys did a seatbelt enforcement zone. Go out and send somebody out, drive somebody's personal car, have an officer stand behind them like they're giving them a ticket, put up your seatbelt enforcement zone sign, you're good to go. We understand that if you're doing this for the first time, or even if you're doing it for the second or third time, and you just forgot to document something that happened, as long as it actually happened and you can determine, and we can determine that it actually happened, go out and take a picture. It makes it much easier for us. We like pictures. Pictures are fun.
All right. We're going to go over section 6 now. This is basically the effectiveness of your efforts. What are the outcomes for what you did? Obviously, if you go out and you write a bunch of citations, you go out there and you educate the public, you go do all this stuff. And so what did you do? What was the effectiveness of your efforts? So there is a seatbelt use rate that'll be built into the application for the year. 24, it was 92.4. I think it was 93 something that it'll be in the application. And what we want you to do is, okay, what is your seatbelt use rate? So if you're new and you didn't do it, what was your use rate prior? We don't know because you're brand new. It's first time doing it. So if that's the case, go out, do a seatbelt use rate, see where are you, how do you compare against currently for the year, and indicate, hey, we're new, we didn't do this, this is brand new. For those agencies that have been doing this, we would like to see, at the beginning of the year, did you do one? And then how did you compare at the end of the year when you ran a seatbelt check? But we want to see what kind of effect did you have? What kind of roadway crashes did you guys incur? How many fatals? Let us see a trend. Is there a trend somewhere? What we're interested in is outcomes as opposed to outputs. Okay. Enforcement statistics are not outcomes. We went out and we wrote 300 speed citations on a particular roadway leading up to a high crash location. Okay. That's an output. You wrote 300 tickets. What was the result of that? Prior to us doing this enforcement effort, we went out and realized, hey, we identified this area. We then went out there, developed a plan, instituted the plan, whether it be education, enforcement, or a combination. And then after that, this is what the speed was on a particular segment of roadway. We reduced it by 30%, or it went from 55 down to the speed limit or close to the speed limit. We want to know what the outcomes were. What we want to know initially, what were you trying to accomplish? We were trying to reduce speed. Here's what we were trying to do. Okay, have you accomplished it? Maybe yes, maybe no. Not everything gets accomplished. If you tried a certain thing and halfway through you realize, hey, this isn't working, and we had to pivot from that approach and try a new approach, and then that was successful, explain that. Tell us, that you did that, but again, not everything's going to be successful, but at least you can say, here's our outcomes. It didn't do as much as we hoped. Did you lower crashes in a particular area or location? Did your seatbelt use increase? Here's the other thing. When you're looking at data for effectiveness, you may have had the same number of crashes. Okay. But if 20% were A, 30% were B, and the rest were C for injury crashes, and now you went out there, had the same number of crashes, but now it's 10%, 15%, and 5%. That's accomplishment. That's an outcome. That's a good outcome, even though the amount and number of crashes are the same. Use this area. This is a good place to do comparisons and use charts. You can either, do like the matrix on the right, where you actually can sit back and you can see 45% in reduction or it increases, or you use line graphs or bar graphs. It doesn't matter. It's a perfect location for us to visually see what you're explaining in your narrative on how you succeeded. Don't forget to include data, engineering solutions. It's not just about enforcement and education. If you work with your village engineering department and you came up with a solution to stripe, you have wide subdivision streets, and it's lending people to speed. And so what you do is you paint a white line to make like a parking area and reduce the lanes from 15 feet to 11 feet. And then that slowed the speeding cars in a subdivision. Include that. That's an engineering solution. We're running short of time, so I'm going to let Paul go right on to the quality submission.
So what we're looking for is quality, not quantity. Back in the day when we had paper applications, we would get people turning in 4-inch thick books, and that didn't do as well as somebody who had something that was an inch thick, because 4 inches thick was a lot of things that we didn't even need. So be aware. Like Scott mentioned earlier, under training, we'll say the same thing for public information and education. Just tell us what you did and give us an example and move along. We don't need thousands of pictures of one particular event. Make it representative and then go on to the next item. This is where I just go out of my mind, because your computer has spell check. And if it doesn't, you have other people that can look at your submission before you turn it in. There's nothing wrong with having somebody else look at your work, because you know what it's supposed to say. And if you made a mistake and it doesn't say what you think it said, you're going to be docked points. Grammar is important. Fonts, don't use 5 different types of fonts on one page. It becomes annoying. Pick a decent font and stick with it. If you want to use a different font to highlight something, great, or a different color, great. But don't combine many different fonts on one page or throughout the application. Is it organized? Scott mentioned it during the training section. We want them in a particular order, and the order will be what's shown in the application format. So make sure that it's easier for the judges. Make sure it's easier for them to go through and say, okay, well, here's policies, here's training, here's PI&E. Make it in the format that we want you to make it in, and it makes it easier for us. Recent photos, I mentioned that. Current newspaper articles, we can go back and check dates. So don't sneak in an article that says we did St. Patrick's Day enforcement from X to X, and we look back and we said, you know what, those dates don't sound familiar, and we find out that it was from 2023. White space, be judicious about the number of items that you put on a page. Don't make it too crowded, but don't put one picture and a paragraph on each page and expect us to give you a whole lot of points for that. Quality of scans. This is really important too, because if you make PDFs out of things, sometimes it works out better than if you're trying to photocopy something. Be aware of the fact that if it's too small, we won't be able to read it. And there's no way for us to determine what it is you're trying to tell us. So please be sure that your scans have have a high quality. I mentioned spell check, but beware of spell check, because as we have an example here, if you use the wrong word, but you spell it correctly, that's not going to do you very much good. And again, as I mentioned earlier, always have somebody else check your work. Pictures are great, except this person could be in the United Arab Emirates for all I know. And what does he do? What's he pointing at? So you put the picture in, but then you put in a narrative that says what this person is doing. A date would be nice. A place where this occurred would be nice. But this at least is giving us the bare minimum, who the officer is and why they're holding a pool noodle in their hand. I mentioned a legible date. Be sure your social media and your news items have a date that we can read. Awards and training certificates. When Scott was talking about training, he mentioned don't put 41 different certificates on one page, because in order to fit 41 certificates, you're going to have to make them the size of a thumbnail, and then we won't be able to read the dates, and we may not believe that they're from the proper year. If you're including pictures of your officers, deputies, troopers, make sure we can read the patches or at least the squad graphics. As I mentioned, there have been circumstances in the past where people have tried to use pictures of other agencies and say that it was their activity, and it wasn't, and it cost them. We mentioned this before, and we'll mention it again. If you use Word or Excel, I really like to use Excel, but if you put it into your application and it's not in a Word format, you might have a problem with the formatting. I like to use PowerPoint to make my screens and my submissions. But again, if you don't make it into a PDF, you're going to have a problem with the formatting. And this goes along with the white space. Don't put too much or too little on a page. This is the order we'd like to see things in. In your policies and guidelines section, occupant protection first, then speed, then distracted driving, then impaired driving. Try to keep this format through your entire application. That way we can go back and forth. If we see something and we said, well, they mentioned something about that, but didn't they mention something about it elsewhere too? We want to give you all the credit you deserve. So if something applies for enforcement or incentives and recognition, or both, but it also applies to public information and education, we want to be able to go back and forth and make sure that you're obviously getting the credit you deserve for doing the things that you're supposed to do. Prepare your information ahead of time. This isn't going to do you a whole lot of good if this is your first time entering and you just decided to enter yesterday, but there's still time to do some information gathering. And as I mentioned, documentation of examples. If you have the opportunity, go out and show us what it is that you did in 2025, even though you have to take the picture in 2026. Are you going to apply for a specialty award? The specialty awards have to be in a separate section. Don't expect the judges to go, okay, well, this agency applied for the rail safety award. I'm going to have to go back through policies, procedures, training, PI&E, et cetera, to try to figure out what they did as far as rail safety. I mentioned quality means more than quantity. Make it good, don't make it a lot. There are sample applications on the website, on the Illinois Traffic Challenge website. Take a look at them. Theft is the most sincere form of flattery. If you see something that another agency did that you haven't done yet and you want to do it, knock yourself out. Nobody has trademarks on anything. Narrative summaries. Just make sure that you mention what your attachment is supposed to be about. Go ahead. Go on, Scott. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, how are your applications judged? You go into a category based on what type of agency you are and how big you are. A team of judges is assigned to each category. So 3 judges look at each application in each category. That way you've got consistency throughout. I may be a tough judge on one thing. Scott may be a little bit more laid back, but that applies through all the agencies in that category. He mentioned this earlier. Sometimes you're tenths of a point apart. Just because you don't make it in the top 3 to be awarded doesn't mean that you didn't do a good program. Somebody else might have been a little bit better, and that happens a lot. You can lose a significant number of points if you forget something. If you want a feedback letter, we will make one up for you. The judges fill out a sheet for every application. One of us, Scott or I, will take that judge's sheet and try to decipher their writing and send you a feedback letter telling you what it is that you did or didn't do so that you can make the next application better. Hey, what if we do win? Well, we mentioned you can go before your village board. I've done presentations. Scott has done presentations in front of the village board. Your agency did this, this, and this, and they were awarded first prize in their category. Village boards like that kind of stuff. And it doesn't hurt. Next year, when you're going into the budget talks, you can say, hey, you know what? Remember, we did win that traffic safety award. So, how about a little something for the effort? And if you win, how are we going to reward you? Well, we have one or more grand prizes. Last year, and for several years now, we've had a squad car equipment package, light bar, radar, laptop, push bar, camera system in some cases. So we try to get as many items as we can that will help you with your traffic safety efforts. We give away LiDARs, we give away radars, we give away training. Northwestern gives away an entire accident investigation package some years to the Rookie of the Year, and then again to one of the category agencies. So we try to make it relevant to traffic safety so that you can use what you've earned to continue your efforts. These are some of our corporate sponsors. Some of these entities have been with us from the very beginning. We encourage you, if you are in the market for fleet graphics or light bars or installations for your vehicles, we encourage you to patronize our sponsors because they do make this possible. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we have a couple of specialty awards that are associated with the challenge, but not exclusively for the challenge. And one of those is Looking Beyond the Safety Belt Award. This is a recognition by the Illinois Chiefs of Police. And what this award recognizes is any deputy, officer, trooper who makes a stop solely based on an occupant protection violation. So whether it's a passenger seatbelt driver, child passenger safety, and that stop results in additional arrests, information, do they get a gun? Did you get a burglar with burglary tools? Did you find a missing person? Something that other than just like, oh, he was wanted on a warrant. Not that, but it's something significant that occurred as a result of stopping somebody specifically for that. So you didn't stop them for speeding and they weren't wearing a seatbelt. We stopped them for an occupant protection violation. And we have this really nice recognition. We have for every year, we have a real nice awards breakfast that we invite everybody to come to, and you get recognized for this, as well as the traffic safety challenge. But again, go back over the past year, because it's a calendar year, and look at any significant arrests and see if that arrest was the result of an occupant protection. You can turn in this application. It's on the Traffic Challenge website. It's on the Law Enforcement Liaison website, where you can fill it out. It just details a little bit about what happened, what the results were, and then you can submit that. And then that's also looked at by judges, but you don't have to make an application. So it doesn't matter. You could have 1, 2, 10 people. If they were involved in something that was really good, make sure you put them in for it, because it's really important to recognize people for doing good jobs, especially doing traffic enforcement that resulted in something good. We also have a Highway Safety Leadership Award. This is a recognition for the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and it is for someone who, over the course of a career, it's a career-long kind of recognition where they started out as a deputy, and they were really good. They were, traffic safety, and they were really doing a lot of enforcement, making a lot of DUI arrests, and they got promoted. But then they continued to, in whatever aspect, whether it's a supervisor or they went into administration, to support traffic safety. And, maybe they go out and they buy equipment, made sure equipment was purchased for the line personnel to do their stuff. But throughout a whole career, what did they do? Do you have a person like that? This is an opportunity to recognize that person in your organization. This recognition also allows you to recognize again, prosecutor that did a good job, or a civilian that's been involved with, we've had people over the past years that were involved in speed education, and that they were committed to that. They had a son who was killed, but they spent a lot of their time and effort and money doing something like that. So you can recognize those people for that. Again, we've got the Traffic Safety Challenge website. It's got information about different types of aspects of traffic safety, resource links, events that are coming up. Speaking of events that are currently happening, right now, IDOT has their mini grant and step enforcement grant applications. They just posted the notice of funding opportunity. You have an opportunity to have IDOT get involved in their program. They will fund you to pay for overtime for officers to go out and do extra enforcement in your jurisdiction. They'll pay you for it and reimburse you for those costs. They'll reimburse you. There's an equipment component this year for the full year one that will start in October, where you can get a LiDAR, radar, or PBT that they'll pay for. So if you're not already part of the grant program with IDOT, definitely go to the website. If you go on a Google search to Traffic Safety Grants Illinois and type that in, the first response you're going to get back from Google is going to be the quick link to that. Take a look at the mini grant if you don't have a current full year, or if you do have a full year, the application's there for you to do. Paul and I are both law enforcement liaisons. Look for your regional liaison, and we will come and help you fill out the application and give you recommendations as far as, how to fill it out so it doesn't take you 4 days. It's a half an hour. So just remember that that's there as an opportunity for you. But going back to our website, that type of information is on there. We will also, if requested, we'll still help you, and we'll be able to maybe email you some exemplar applications from previous years to help you see kind of like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. All right, our application date. When is this thing due? It is due. The applications are due May 9th at 23:59 hours. As long as you hit submit, you're good. If for some reason you wait till the last minute, which sometimes law enforcement does, and if there's some kind of problem, IT problem, let us know. We'll figure out a way to get it in. But you have a long time to put all this together. as you move forward and you look at everything you've done and you want to say, hey, am I on the right track? Is this kind of what you were talking about? You can give and contact Paul or myself, and we'll take a look at what you're doing and say, yeah, that's good. That's what we meant when we were talking about this at the how-to seminar. Here are the resources that you can get a hold of us at. We've got our website for the traffic challenge. There is a Twitter account that we post stuff on, and the law enforcement liaison website that you can go ahead and gather information to help you do your application. Again, any questions that you have, here's mine and Paul's contact information. You can give us a call, email us. We will be glad to help you in any way we can with your applications. Paul, any closing?
Anybody who's interested in any of those banners that Scott talked about, I've got a handful in my storage locker that my wife would appreciate me getting rid of. So shoot me an email and we can arrange for you to get one.
One last thing too, we talked about specialty awards. There were a number of agencies that had phenomenal efforts in different specialty awards, and they didn't take the time to do it. They would have won, hands down, would have won the award. Take the extra half an hour to just grab things from the different sections, put it together, and make an application and put it in there, because they would have absolutely won. So just make sure you do that. Whatever you create it in, turn it into a PDF and upload it. That makes sure that everything that you look at and see is the same. Because if we open your PowerPoint, if I have a newer version, it's going to change and make everything wonky. And we want to give you your full credit for stuff. So as I look, I don't see any questions. So again, contact. Thank you again. I know we ran a little bit over. Hopefully we've provided information for you, and we would really like to see your applications. Again, any follow-up questions, call Paul or myself. We'll be glad to help you out any way we can.